ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
All right, welcome to another round of AR Predicts. We have a massive fight. Anthony Joshua comeback, if you like. Anthony Joshua versus Jermaine Franklin at the O2 Arena in London. Probably the first time in a long time there are no belts on the line because Joshua's obviously lost his. He's trying to make a comeback. He needs to win emphatically. It's a big fight. Strange date to have it on April Fool's Day. I'm not sure if I would have agreed. But again, Hamza, what do you think? How do you think this fight's gonna go? You've obviously watched Franklin. You know how good he is, how underestimated he is as a guy in the ring. He's coming to fight. He's coming to win. He's lost a lot of weight for this fight. I'm excited. It's going to be massive. What do you think?
No, so I mean, I think you touched on something really interesting there. It's been a really long time since we've seen a Joshua press conference and there's no gold at the front. You know what I mean? So this is interesting times for Anthony Joshua. He's also not on pay-per-view either, and I think that's the first time in about 7-8 years that he's fighting as part of the subscription for the Zone. And I know in the UK the price for the Zone has gone up, and that's probably something to do with AJ not fighting on pay-per-view, but still, he's no longer behind the paywall of pay-per-view. So this is interesting times for Anthony Joshua, man. He's obviously got a new trainer in Derek James. So it's kind of seeing how that gels. It's his third trainer in his third fight. So which is another interesting, fact. Like there's so much mad stuff going on with Joshua. It's coming off the back of that Usyk loss and the rantings of that. And in terms of, I'm going to just touch on Jermaine Franklin for a minute as well. Like I've had the pleasure of seeing him fight against Dillian Whyte just before Christmas. And one thing I will say is I thought he won that fight, and I think I'm very, very pleased that off the back of that performance he's gotten this opportunity, because this is a massive opportunity for him. So I think he's very, very technical as well. He's a very skillful and technical fighter, and he's going to make this a very sort of awkward night while he can. I think the way I'm sort of seeing this, and you tell me if you agree or disagree, I think as a standalone fight, this doesn't really have my interest like massively. What I'm buying into is the rebuild. Like this is the like, do you know what I mean? Like as a standalone fight, Joshua versus Franklin, it's not necessarily a fight that like really grabs your attention in that way. What I'm sort of investing in right now is the rebuild of Anthony Joshua. And in that context, I think this is a good fight for that journey to begin. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I think also like he's got this fight just off the back of the fact that, if you're impartial, you're not biased in any way, you could have definitely argued that Franklin beat Dillian Whyte, and however you scored it, you could have scored it 7-5 to Franklin. You could have scored it, maybe even more than that. But, I would say he probably edged that fight. So based off the back of that, he deserves a shot at Joshua. 100%. And I think it's exciting to have another big heavyweight, because I feel like, it's good to have it's always good to have an American heavyweight. It always brings the sport of boxing up, and it keeps it in the general public's eyes of the mass market. So you've got Deontay Wilder. I'm hoping that, Jermaine Franklin could be another guy on the scene. You've got the other young guy as well coming up as well, Jared Anderson. So, it's good. It's good for the sport of boxing in general. But, if we are watching this just because we want to see more from Joshua, we want Joshua to have an emphatic win, to have a knockout, and to make it, and like I said, emphatic, because Franklin.
If Joshua labors to victory in a similar fashion to what Whyte did against Franklin, obviously it's going to be massive props to Franklin, because obviously he's went in there against two top 5 heavyweights back to back, and he's made them both look terrible. So it's going to be props to Franklin. Imagine if he even beats him. If he beats Joshua, it's going to be like, it's going to be the world is going to turn upside down, But if for Joshua, he has to iron him out, you know, in my opinion. He has to do what better than what Dylan White did. You
Yeah.
know,
I
so
I mean, let's say this, buddy. I mean, Jermaine Franklin, his life has already changed. He gave up his job. He was working. I can't remember what he was doing, but you know, he got offered that Dillian White fight, and
yeah.
he quit his job, and he's almost already like it's life changing for him. So
No, of
imagine
course
it
it is,
if
yeah.
he beats Joshua, he's going to
Yeah.
be absolutely swimming in money, buddy, and he's going to have to, you know, going to have to call him Benjamin Franklin, Jermaine Franklin, because he's just going to be rolling in absolutely all about the
Yeah.
Benjamins, baby, and he's going to be loving it. So
It's a
yeah, I think,
dangerous level of motivation to have as well, you know,
yeah, can you
because
imagine?
that's the thing. When you're that guy who is the life changing fight, it must
Yeah,
be so scary because like, you know, to Joshua, Jermaine Franklin could just be considered another fight. Where
yeah,
to Jermaine Franklin, Anthony Joshua is what everything that we've just described. He's that life changing. He's you know he's what Andy
yeah.
Ruiz when Andy Ruiz fought him
Andrew
the
Ruiz
first time. He
first
had that
time.
kind of it's that
Yeah,
life changing, like, you know. So
the motivation between Andy Ruiz 1 and Andy Ruiz 2, you can see it. It's
yeah,
right. And if Jermaine takes himself seriously, and I think he will, it's not gonna be so easy for him, you know. And he's an awkward fighter. He's a big, massive, heavy lump. He's not easy to put away. So
very
very
powerful
powerful,
guy.
and and you'll punch him, and he will keep coming. He won't just go down straight away. So so Joshua really has to be confident going into it, and he really has to
Yeah,
show why he's been considered, you know, at the top of his game for so long. You know, interesting his motivation though. You know, I think he's badly been advised by Eddie Hearn, or if that's just what he wanted to say, that he's only interested in money. Because to me, it's like, well, you've already got money. So if
yeah, he's
your
got a
only
stupid
motivation
amount of money,
is,
isn't he?
yeah,
Yeah,
if your motivation is, oh, I'm only fighting because of I want to make money, well, I think you've already made more than you could ever dream of, your family, your future generations. Like, he's made a
yeah.
lot of money. So
No, he
how
has. He's
motivated
made a
is he?
tremendous amount
You
of
know,
money, and he's brought a lot of money into boxing as well.
oh,
Not
of
only
course, yeah.
has he just made money, he's brought vast amounts of money into
Oh,
British boxing.
I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking him. I think what he's done is amazing. Like, he deserves a massive, massive amount of respect.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is, like, how motivated is he to keep going, to keep winning, to keep taking on hard fights? Because he's going to have a couple easy fights now. You know, I'm not saying Jermaine Franklin's easy, but he's got Jermaine Franklin. He might have a couple more kind of in the top 15. Maybe Otto Wallen would be good to see. A
yeah,
Dillian White rematch probably, and
yeah,
then if he wins all three of those, he's then going to be back in the heat,
yeah.
and back in the kitchen. So it's like, are you really motivated to do that, to beat the top guys, to beat Fury, to have another crack at Usyk, or you know, have you lost that because you've already made all your money, you've been wildly more successful than probably most of the boxers, barring Tyson Fury? He's made more money than any of them. He's been more successful than any of them just off commercials.
I think
Um,
that fight is inevitable. You know,
yeah,
I don't think those two guys will be allowed to retire without fighting each other.
just
And
awesome.
I think it's one of those fights where even if, you know, Fury beats Usyk and then chucks the belts away, and then years later, I feel like they could just create a belt. Floyd Mayweather did to fight McGregor. It was just like the money belt. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like that's a fight where they would just create the Diamond WBC heavyweight title. Like, do you know what I mean? Because it's just
yeah.
one of those fights. I think I don't know. Joshua always feels to me like he's trying to be sort of defensive with the media, and he's not. He's like almost like holding back. Like,
He's very
do you know?
cagey right now. He's very
Yeah,
cagey. He hates. I think he's just so
cage is a
competitive
good way to describe it.
that he is extremely cagey
He
because
doesn't want to give an inch. He doesn't want to give an inch almost, does he? Like, he almost
no,
says things that are like slightly. It's a little bit of like, you know, trickery almost.
yeah, I think he's so upset that he's lost his belts and his pride. I think And then you can understand it, you can understand it. I mean, even if his amateur record, he's barely lost any fights in his amateur record. And then all of a sudden he's gone through his whole amateur record, beating everybody mostly. I think he only lost like twice, in amateur. Then he's gone into professional game. He's gone all this way unbeaten, knocking everybody out. Then all of a sudden, he's got this Usyk guy who he just doesn't have an answer to him.
I think as well, and like if you look back at his rant after the Usyk fight as well, I think he genuinely thought he was going to win that fight, because if you listen to some of the things he was ranting on about, it was almost like a bit like a victory speech, like some of the things he was saying, and it was just like, are you muddling the speech up? Like this is like, and like I just think I think it broke his heart, because I think he genuinely invested so much in the camp of that fight and just thinking, I'm going to beat this guy. And it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen.
Yeah, it was it was sad to see. But at the same time, you gotta give all the respect and kudos for Usyk, because he's in the middle of a war. His housing, where he lives is getting bombed. And he's still out there to perform, and he's still there performing. And if you like, it probably motivates him more than ever. He has
the weight of the world on his shoulders, like Usyk, doesn't he? And he comes out, and he's one of the things that me and you noted when we were covering that particular fight was how relaxed Usyk was and how calm he was, and it translates when he boxed when he boxed AJ. AJ almost like was sort of like coiled up and tight, and Usyk was free flowing, and it just makes a massive difference.
And I think he knows how to perform under the pressure. But going back to Joshua Franklin, mate, I'm gonna say right now how I feel. I would say I'm like 65%, 65, 35. I'm going towards Joshua win. I would say I would hope Joshua wins by knockout or TKO, and I'm going to go for a late round, because I don't think he's just going to come in and steam him out in 3 rounds. He might do, and I hope he does for his career-wise. But I think Joshua wins by knockout, and that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, I'm going to go for an Anthony Joshua knockout within 5 rounds. I think
5 rounds.
Listen,
wow.
Yeah, inside 5 rounds. I think AJ is going to want to impress Derek James. I think Derek James is going to be like a steadying hand almost on proceedings, but I think as tough and as durable and as technical as I think Jermaine Franklin is, I think unfortunately for him, the way his body is, the way his stature is, he's almost built for a guy like AJ. AJ's taller than him. He's going to be punching down on him, and I just think, once AJ sort of settles in to that fight, once he finds his distance, starts to pick his punches, I think he might get Franklin out of there, to be honest with you. And I think, like I say, I'm investing in this fight in terms of the build back. I think he can knock Jermaine Franklin out, and that's no disrespect to Jermaine Franklin, because I think very highly of him as well.
Yeah, man, good points, well made, buddy. And that's been another episode of Another Round.